All right, and we are live. Hello, everybody. This is My Two Cents. I know this is a little unusual as far as stream time. Just I've had kind of a crazy weekend. I was not able to host a stream at the regular time last night, and I wasn't able to get a video out this week. But I do want to make sure I have an opportunity to talk to you guys about everything going on. So I'm joined by Mikhail, the stray cat, one of my long time and highest patron donors. So thank you again to him for all his awesome support. But for the next half an hour or so, maybe longer, we're just going to talk about whatever y'all want to talk about. By all means, now is the time. If you got something on your mind that you'd like me to address, go ahead and put it in the chat and we'll see what we can do. But there are at least a few things I want to talk about. First of all, taking a look at the U.S. national debt, we have crested $27 trillion. I'm looking at U.S. debt. You know what? Actually, I've gotten better at this share screen thing. I used to not really share my screen that often, but seems to be working now. So let's go ahead and pull up the national debt on the screen here. So as you can see, the U.S. national debt has passed 27 trillion, 11,863 million. And of course, once you get to that 100,000 line, it's growing so fast that you might as well not even bother trying to read it. JC Armitage, this is quite impromptu, but hello. Yes, I'm aware it's an impromptu stream, but thank you for being here. So there's that. Of course, we all know that the major news story this week has been that the President of the United States and the First Lady, Donald and Melania Trump, have now tested positive for the COVID-19 virus and were hospitalized at the Walter Reed Military Medical Center in Maryland. There are basically like 3 or 4 different camps of how people are responding to this. You have the far-right QAnon types who are responding by saying that this is some kind of Democratic plan to deliberately infect Trump and hope that he dies before the election, making it more likely that Biden gets elected. You have your standard conservative type who say, you know, the president's human like anyone else. He contracted COVID, but he's going to recover and he'll do just fine. You have the center-left types who say, I don't like Trump, but hey, he's human. He got the virus and I don't wish him ill. I just don't want him to be president. And you've got the far left types who are actually celebrating in the streets saying, I hope Donald Trump dies. Of course, let's face it, Donald Trump is human. He's subject to getting a virus like anyone else. And since COVID is really no different than the average flu as far as deadliness, this really wouldn't be that big of news were it not the case that this is, of course, COVID-19. I do see that Joe Biden plans on being at the next debate still. It was announced, at least there's a news article here from Fox News saying that Joe Biden does plan on being at the next debate, and I'll go ahead and share that right now. Biden plans to attend next debate, hopes that Trump will be able to participate, campaign says. It's a town hall, and as you know, Vice President Biden loves a good town hall, campaign advisor said. I'm sure he does, especially given all the softballs that he gets thrown at his town halls. But, you know, the one thing I wanted to talk about this week is the fact that as I scroll through Twitter, as I look at various news outlets, be it Fox News, be it CNN, the Huffington Post, right-wing and left-wing news sources, or Republican and Democrat news sources, respectively, you can see that people on every side of the issue keep saying over and over again that, like, this is the election that will lose the Republic. You know, if Donald Trump is the most dangerous president in the history of the United States, and if he gets reelected, we're all doomed. Or, you know, Donald Trump is the greatest president in the history of the United States. If Biden gets elected, we'll never elect another Republican again, and we're all doomed. And of course, you've got like the folks at Liberty Hangout and the Caitlin Bennett fake libertarian types who say we ought to just make Donald Trump king lest we lose the country to the Democrats forever. Better to live in a Catholic monarchy than to live in democracy controlled by Democrats. And it's finishing my thought. Welcome back, Mikhail. I know he's been having some connection issues lately, but the thought that no problem. The thought that occurs to me is it's really whether you're a Republican or a Democrat saying that, you really show that you're just an authoritarian. I mean, if saving the Republic, whatever that means, depends entirely upon electing this particular individual or we're all doomed. Well, I mean, is there any, if literally everybody is doomed, is there nothing you would not do to save the lives of everyone from utter and complete doom, I mean, that would justify a military uprising. Whatever you're talking about, the boogaloo, the next civil war, both sides are saying if we lose, it's going to justify that because we're all doomed if we lose. And at that point, you've really just got two warring dictatorship factions who both want absolute power to do what they know to be right. They just disagree about what they want to do with that power, which is why I've said time and time again, fundamentally speaking, there really is no difference between the Republicans and the Democrats. They both believe in expanding the power of government. They just disagree about what exactly the government should do with its power. And if you believe government is inherently legitimate, then there's no right or wrong way for the government to use its power if it has the right to exercise said power. So, I mean, it's something I've said time and time again. I encourage everybody to go ahead, look at my website, why government elections are a farce. I've written an article about it, but it was this way in 2016. It's this way now. Everyone just keeps saying, this is the election that's going to determine the future. If we don't win, if our side doesn't win, everyone is all doomed. Yeah, they've been saying that every election since forever. I see no reason to think that this is the election that will determine everything. I can basically guarantee two things.
Well said.
No matter who wins, there are two things that are going to happen. Government spending will increase, and the government will grow in the size and scope of its authority.
Yeah, and it's really sad that people don't realize this.
Mm-hmm. Now, does that mean that Trump and Biden are fundamentally the same in every single way? No, I'm not saying that. It's not. It's more nuanced than that. The point is that there really isn't the Republican Party and the Democratic Party. There's the authoritarian party. There are two authoritarian parties that disagree about what the government should do with its authoritarian power, but they both agree that it should expand its power, and that it should be able to decide for you what's better for you than you do.
Yeah, and the beautiful part is they not only believe that us common little people should, but in fact demand and force the rest of us to pay for it. It's really sad.
Mm-hmm. JC Armitage says this is the most important election cycle ever. Funny how that seems to be a thing every election cycle. Exactly. Every single election, they say this is the most important election ever. The outcome of this election will determine the future forever. If our side loses, there's no going back. We're fundamentally doomed. Yeah. No matter who wins, and yet every election the same thing happens. The government spends more, and the government grows in the size and scope of its authority.
Yeah, it really doesn't matter which side of the two-party duopoly actually end up winning. The bare fact is the government itself just keeps increasing, every year, every election cycle. No matter who wins, no matter who loses, it doesn't matter. And I don't understand why people just don't seem to get this.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's basically my rant for right now, which took us only 9 minutes, and probably could have summed that up in about 1 minute and 30 seconds. But hey, it's something worth ranting about. So at this point, Mikhail, if you have anything you want to talk about, by all means, please do. And I see we only have 5 people watching right now. Well, 6 watching now, which doesn't surprise me. This was pretty impromptu. I don't expect us to have a really high view count. But if anybody watching just has something they want to talk about, doesn't have to be political, economic, or anything else, just whatever you want to talk about. Oh, DarkCon is in the chat. Hey, still not able to join. Just thought I'd pull the stream up on the browser and give you watch time to help boost the algorithm while I drive down to the convenience store. Hey, I appreciate that, DarkCon. Love to have you as a viewer, even if you can't join the stream. Oh, and I missed this comment earlier. JC Armitage says, isn't Trump in his 70s? Does anyone know what the COVID survival rate at that age bracket is? I don't know. I haven't looked it up, but let's go ahead and Google search it now. COVID survival rate by age. Well, This is coming from the CDC, so do with that what you will. But in the 75 to 84-year range, the hospitalization rate is 8 times higher than average. The death rate is 220 times higher than average, which of course sounds pretty sounds pretty intense. But when you consider that the actual death rate is as low as it is, it's actually not that higher. It's not that much more. I'll go ahead and put that up on the screen if anybody wants to see it.
Okay, since you bring that up, I got a question. Didn't the CDC,
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, didn't the CDC release new findings here? What was it, like 2 weeks ago?
It was a couple weeks ago. We talked about it on the stream.
Yeah. I was pretty sure about that. And the bottom line is, and I don't know why. Actually, I do know why, but I don't want to jump to conclusions. But the mainstream media is still running with this whole 200 plus thousand, COVID deaths thing. And I'm thinking to myself, well, wait a minute, doesn't that kind of like go in complete contrast to what the CDC just recently released? Like, wait a minute, what? So, okay, maybe I missed something here, but yeah. I don't think that a lot of those deaths can really be attributed to COVID-19. But, I don't know. What am I missing here?
Yeah, the point is and it's still anyone's guess when it comes to the actual death rate. And it's already been confirmed hospitals that have higher amounts of death due to COVID-19 are entitled to more federal aid. So hospitals actually have a direct incentive to report more COVID deaths when people die. And basically, if you had COVID when you died, they're reporting you as a COVID death, even if you had already been hospitalized for progressive cancer for the past 4 years. So it just goes to show that really the amount of healthy people who are catching COVID and then dying, I don't know what the exact numbers are, but my guess is it is pretty darn low.
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought. But hey, what do I know? I'm just a stray cat.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know what? I just pulled up a USA Today. USA Today being a little more left leaning, and Night Shift 10,000. Hello.
Hey guys, what's up? Hey.
Not much. How are you? Thank you for joining this stream, even though it's pretty impromptu.
Oh yeah, no, this was unexpected. I was just working on a new video, but yeah, I'm happy to join. I'm happy to get in on this. I'm always happy to be part of this. Loving this.
How you been, Night Shift?
Oh, doing great, man. Doing great. How are you?
I'm doing great. Apart from last month, it was kind of embarrassing, but we had some serious connection issues. Other than that, I'm good.
Yeah, I'm glad that those connection issues have been resolved, my man. So, what's the topic going on tonight?
I've basically just been talking about my initial topic was I was talking about how I'm seeing more and more as we get closer to the election, people on both sides of the political aisle talking about how this is the most important election in American history. If our side, whether you're a Republican, whether a Democrat, if our side does not win, America will be fundamentally altered and we will all be doomed. Yet, all you got to do is look up news articles from 4 years ago, 8 years ago, 12 years ago, and you'll find that this is the narrative literally every single election cycle.
Oh, man. Honestly, that surprises me that people are even saying that, given what we've been given in the first presidential debates. I mean, I personally kept calling the presidential debate Grumpier Old Men 3, the presidential debate. I mean, it was just, yeah.
Yes, beautiful.
There was no meaningful information shared in that debate. It was just two old men yelling at each other.
Yeah, pretty much.
Honestly, I thought to myself, was this even a debate? I don't think this was a debate. This was just two grumpy old men and a mainstream media shill arguing. That's all it was.
Two grumpy old men and a third grumpy old man trying to moderate and keeping his sanity by taking his pills every 5 minutes, basically. Yeah.
Hey,
oh my
I'm
God.
just going to go on record here and say that if there was anyone who, quote unquote, won that debate, It was the bartender at wherever the hell Chris Wallace went right afterwards.
Mm-hmm. Now, just to finish up what I was saying, now this, like I said, USA Today is definitely a more left-leaning publication, and when it comes to the specific report that the CDC has reported that the COVID-19 death rate is around 0.26%, they rated the claim partly false. However, they admitted that the experts are arguing about a range of between 0.2 and 0.4, possibly as high as 1.5. But that's not really, when you say fact check, that would be, in order, they're not saying that the claim is false. They're saying that 0.26 is not exact. It falls within a range. It could be as low as 0.2, could be as high as 0.4. Some say, initially they said 1.5. I think all they're really doing is trying to obscure the fact that, yeah, the death rate is pretty darn low.
Even still. Oh, gosh.
Adam No Eve asks a question. What are your thoughts on Hans Herman Hoppe? I think he's based, and if you hate him, you're a Marxist sympathizer, but that's my feeling. So I know this has been an incredibly controversial topic among the libertarian community. I'm going to say up front, I really hate how many you're not a real libertarian debates are going on Twitter and YouTube all the time. Honestly, there is no ideology in the world where every person who's a member of that ideology agrees with every other person on every specific point. And I think when it comes to purity spirals, the libertarian community at large has been pretty miserable on that point. Mm-hmm. Hans Herman Hoppe, I will be honest, I've not read him as much as I should in order to make let me start over. I have not read enough Hans Herman Hoppe to make an expert judgment on that point. I know that Esoteric the Free and Filthy Heretic have made a very long video essay series arguing against his point. I've also talked with Hoplu, who's a supporter of Hans Herman Hoppe, and I think he made some legitimate points. I think, like just about every political philosopher and economic philosopher out there, there are those that like his philosophy, there are those that dislike his philosophy, there are those that claim they're followers of him who probably aren't, and those that are. Hans Herman Hoppe is a well-respected thinker. I think he's got a lot of, I definitely think there's a lot of merit to what he says. Does that mean I agree with everything he says? No. Do I think there are people who take some of the things he says to the extreme that I don't think he himself would go to? Yes, I do. But honestly, I'm not, one, I don't know enough about him to make a hardcore judgment. And two, I don't think it's a hill. It's not a hill I'm worth dying on, in my opinion. I know there are a lot of libertarians who think it is, but it just doesn't interest me enough to get involved in that debate.
Yeah, I can agree with that. To be perfectly honest, and like you said, 2 cents, they, just like any other ideology, there are so many people, that have their own subsects, their own personal views, whatever you want to call it. Within libertarians, within conservatives, within Democrats, it doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, the real question is what someone is espousing, is what someone is asserting, is it in keeping with that ideology? I will freely admit that I don't know enough about Hop, or I am not even sure how to pronounce his name.
Hoppa.
Hoppa. Excuse me. Thank you. But if somebody likes his particular take, great. If somebody likes another particular take, that's fine. I don't see a problem. And it's really not something that's really worth getting into.
I will just say one of my biggest frustrations, and I'm more than willing to. I'm not going to call it anyone specifically. I'm just going to say one of my biggest frustrations is when you have commentators who start to act like they alone are the arbitrators of a certain political ideology, and if you don't agree with them on everything, you must be either evil or stupid.
Oh,
They
absolutely.
they just can't accept that someone might just disagree with them. And like that, and at that point, you and your followers end up becoming like a cult. I will freely admit I am not always right. I do not expect my followers to agree with me on everything. In fact, if you disagree, by all means, let me know and let me know why. Hopefully, I can learn. Hopefully, even if we still disagree after we've talked for a little bit, we can both learn something from each other and move away from it. Better informed, even if we disagree. But the moment someone starts acting like I'm so smart that I'm always right, and if you disagree with me on anything, you must either be evil or stupid. I mean, that person becomes unteachable. The people who choose to continue following them become like a cult, and they just become an echo chamber of nonsense.
Oh, I absolutely agree. I hate that
Exactly.
crap.
Mm-hmm. So Ganor says one of your mates should debate Vosh. I've seen a number of tweets asking for that. I know several people have asked Mr. Dapperton to do that. He doesn't really do debates. I seriously doubt Vosh would debate probably myself or just about anyone else in the community because we don't have nearly as many followers as he does.
Who is this guy? I've never heard of him. Pardon my ignorance here. I've just never heard of who Vosh is.
I really don't know a lot either. He's the most I've seen of him, he debated Hunter Avallone. I know, and after the debate, Hunter Avallone came out and said that he actually did a really good job of challenging a lot of the things he thought. And Hunter Avallone obviously was previously more conservative Republican type commentator. He's since said he's more of a centrist, which I don't know. I don't watch a whole lot of Hunter Avallone content either, but I thought that was interesting. I think Vosh garnered a lot of criticism recently when he suggested that the age of consent needed to be lowered. But again, I know that only from scrolling through tweets, not because I actually meaningfully looked into the matter.
Yeah. I did see bits and pieces of, Vosh, debating with Hunter Avallone. And honestly, my opinion is that Hunter Avallone just was horribly unprepared and, just didn't know what he was dealing with at the time. And from there, well, he kind of did a 180 on himself. That's what I got out of it. And I was kind of disappointed, but that's just me.
Okay. And, that happens to the best of us. One of the biggest problems I've seen in a lot of the debates I've watched recently is that there isn't a clearly enough defined topic. And as a result, the debate ends up going all over the place. And I'm not talking, of course, in reference to the presidential debate, because that was just a dumpster fire. But I mean, just
that's no joke.
Yes, but standard debates. I mean, in a traditional debate, you're supposed to have a clearly defined debate topic. You have one person arguing in the affirmative, one person arguing in the negative. The person in the affirmative gives their opening statement. The person arguing in the negative gives their opening statement. They then cross-examine one another. You get rebuttal, and then close and ask questions. Too many debates, especially debates on YouTube. I think the topic of the debate is too poorly defined. It's not so at the beginning, both debaters don't even really have a clear fix on what they're supposed to be proving. And there's no structure. It's just them talking back and forth. They start yelling at each other, trying to talk over each other. The people in the comments section aren't helping the matter because they're throwing in comments that really have nothing to do with the substance of the debate. And 5 hours later, you've debated 24 different topics, none of which had anything to do with the topic at hand, but you can't really blame them for that because it was too vague of a topic anyways.
Right.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. I kind of like that. Although I would disagree with you on 1.2 cents. You said 5 hours. Sometimes it's more like 48 hours later. Just saying.
It feels like it. It feels like it definitely in some things. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the worst part of it, of the whole spiel, is that even 48 or 72 hours later, there's no real clear winner, so to speak, of the debate, because as you pointed out, 2 cents, the topic of discussion, the topic of the argument itself was just so poorly laid out. It was so poorly, unclearly defined. It's not something that can really be taken objectively. So that makes the entire argument subjective by its very nature and structure. I don't know. What do you guys think?
JC Armitage asks a good question. I've been wondering something. Has anyone ever truly been swayed by a debate before? Doesn't seem like there are as many who are. I will say you're right in that I think most people who actually are interested in watching debates come to the debate already with their own views on the subject, and it's unlikely that one debate is actually going to change someone's mind. I would say personally, have I ever had my opinion swayed by debates? Yes, but I would say it wasn't like I had an opinion and I went into a debate and then I came out with the opposite opinion afterwards. I would say after watching multiple debates on a certain topic, my views have swayed. But I'd say in particular on the topics of religion and philosophy, I've seen professional academic debates have influenced my views on those topics quite significantly, less so in the political and economic spheres.
I actually do have an example where I did debate on Discord, and I really should have recorded it. I did not. It was about 30 minutes long.
I was going to say, could you send it to us?
Yeah, I know. I should have recorded it. I didn't actually think it was going to happen, but I debated an ANCOM on Discord in a Discord argument about anarcho-capitalism, and I was able to debate them down to the point where they were like, "Well, you've given me a lot to think about." And about a week later, they came back and said, "I'm an anarcho-capitalist now," and so
crap.
I know. However, I want to say this. I think they were already kind of on the fence about their beliefs as anarcho-communists or as being an anarcho-communist. But I did actually have an example where I converted somebody, or at least I helped somebody to convert over to that ideology. So, yes, I do have an example of that, but it's like one example. So, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
By the way, Night Shift, since you bring up your own particular anarcho-capitalism shtick, I can't remember if it was on 2 Cents or DarkCon's Discord, but I did see, I think it was the meme of Seattle, anarcho-capitalist Seattle versus, call it what you want.
The Chaz.
Yeah. It was actually pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie. I liked it.
Yeah, yeah. That was if you want to know where the image came from, that was actually an image from Shadowrun. It's just, it's like I've said it before and I'll say it again. If an anarcho-capitalist society ever did happen somewhere in the modern day, the more than likely path I see it taking would be kind of like in the kind of more cyberpunkish route. It's not like Cyberpunk 2077, but just like like the cyberpunk genre, just being more cyberpunkish than not. And so that's why I use that.
Hey, either way, whichever way it goes, that was great. I loved it.
Mm-hmm.
Adam No Eve says, "Weren't we all asleep before we took the red pill?" Purple Pill Philosophy says Vosh is a communist man-child.
Okay.
I'm going to claim ignorance here. I really don't know enough about Vosh to make a meaningful judgment.
Likewise.
Yeah.
Purple Pill says Hunter folded. I will say that statement's probably true. I watched Hunter Avalon's basically post-debate video where he said, I didn't do too well in that debate, and Vosh really got me to think about a lot of things I wasn't prepared for, which, I mean, in fairness to him, I have a lot of respect for someone who can actually come out and say, you know what, I didn't do well in that debate. I've thought more about what was said, and I think I might have been wrong about some of my positions. That's not a shameful thing to do. Refusing to admit that you didn't know what you were talking about when you clearly didn't makes you look like more of an idiot than just owning up and saying, you know what, I think I was wrong on that point. So, hey, good for him.
I can definitely agree with that 2 cents, but I also saw a video clip not terribly long thereafter where he, and I mean this quite literally, in front of his webcam and screen, started twerking for super chats. And yeah, that was pretty much the end of it for me. Just saying. Just saying.
And I just wanted to bring light to JC Armitage's latest comment. Yes, completely agree. With cyberpunk, but without the gang, corporate, government interference, of course. Yes, that's what.
Oh hell yes, I can go with that.
Mm-hmm.
Well said, JC. I could totally go with that.
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh.
You all right there?
Oh yeah, no. I was just trying to find something in my car.
Okay. No problem. We've been going for about half an hour now, so
I'm not the only one sitting in my car right now.
Oh my god, me too. Oh my goodness.
I've got to get my office back, my idiot humans.
Oh god.
I've got to get my office back. But yeah, glad to know I'm not the only one night shift.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, actually, I've got a question.
okay.
Now, I'm not trying to beat a dead horse here or anything like that. You know, I think we can pretty much all agree that the debate, if anyone still really wants to call it that, was nothing more than a complete dumpster fire. I think we can all agree on that. But my boss brought this up here the other day. He was pissed. You know, he was not happy. But he brought up, that Trump, insulted not Hunter Biden, but Beau Biden. You know, the one who is dead. And I tried to review all of the clips, and the only thing I could get was no, he was talking about Hunter Biden and, Burisma and China and, $3.5 million from the mayor of Moscow's wife and stuff.
Don't forget his child from a DC stripper.
Oh yes, absolutely. Yeah, no. Don't forget the single stripper mom. No. But, I'm thinking to myself, well, wait a minute. What are you talking about, dude? Did I miss something? Did Donald Trump actually attack the dead son of Joe Biden? Is that what happened? Or because I couldn't find it. Wait a minute. He explicitly said no, he's not talking about Beau. He's talking about Hunter. That's what he's talking about. The guy
I don't recall him ever
Navy for being a cokehead.
Yeah, I don't recall him ever mentioning Beau Biden. I could be wrong, but to be honest, it really doesn't interest me. I don't care to do the research.
Fair enough. I just thought I would ask because it didn't make any sense to me.
Now, I will say it is absolutely true that the mainstream media is ridiculous, the fact that they're not willing to look into the allegations against Hunter Biden. God knows if it was Donald Trump Jr., it would be national news on every major outlet.
24/7.
Yep. Now, and I've made clear, I do not like Trump by any stretch of the imagination. When you look at the amount of things he's done through his administration, whether it be tariffs, stimulus checks, foreign interventions, red flag laws, the guy is not a good president by any stretch of the imagination. Still, I can't help but be on his side, in as much as it is obvious how the mainstream media has been trying to crucify him since day one. It's hard not to root for him, just given how hard you see the establishment trying to take him down.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah.
It's also amazing to me how many times they want to ask the same question of him, which is effectively, hey, are you a racist? Hey, are you going to disavow racists?
Yeah, meanwhile, everyone keeps ignoring. I've tweeted about this several times. I know I've brought it up on DarkCon stream when I was there for the presidential debate. But why is everyone ignoring the fact that Richard Spencer has now endorsed Biden for president and specifically says that he regrets ever supporting Donald Trump? Because as you remember, Richard Spencer is the organizer of the Charlottesville riots. During the presidential debate, Biden brought up the whole Trump said there were fine people on both sides there line that's been beat into the ground ever since it happened. Yet no one is talking about the fact that the organizer of those riots is now a ardent Biden supporter, says he regrets ever supporting Donald Trump, and yet nobody's talking about it.
Exactly.
Yeah, very well said. Yeah, it really is kind of amazing, that nobody is talking about this. Hey, what do we got here?
Average Blonde asks, is the general problem within anarcho and communism, I'm going to assume you mean anarcho-communism, the inability for scarce resources to be efficiently and meaningfully distributed, as David Friedman puts it? Follow up, do you guys like David Friedman? Well, I'd say the problem not with just anarcho-communism but with communism or socialism in general is the inability to properly distribute scarce resources. That is specific to any form of socialism, not just communism or anarcho-communism. I would say the specific problem with anarcho-communism, as you put it, is that if you believe in an anarcho-capitalist society, if free individuals want to voluntarily come together and form a commune in which they share their possessions in common and live in that type of lifestyle voluntarily, then there's nothing wrong with that. If those individuals try to force other people to join their commune and share their possessions in common, then they are no longer an anarchy. So the truth is, if you are an anarcho-capitalist, if you believe that people should be allowed to maintain private property, even though you want them to voluntarily join your commune, you're still an ANCAP. You're an anarcho-capitalist, not an anarcho-communist. If you believe that people who refuse to be part of your commune should be forced to share their belongings, then you're not an anarchist. So that in my mind is the real problem with anarcho-communism.
Yeah, and I also wanted to go into, because the kind of what you brought up, Average Blonde, that's more of a general problem with communism. The biggest problem with anarcho-communism is it's a very magical unicornish ideology that believes in the laughable idea of post-scarcity of resources and believes that they can make resources not scarce anymore. And that is laughable. That is something that is never going to happen, at least not as far as I see it. And another huge problem is this. Anarcho-communists, they want to abolish the standing government that we have now, and then they want to shift things to where there is, of course, their commune or communes, but where it is based on collective rule, collective ownership of personal property, and where everyone kind of makes decisions based on a majority vote. As we all know, that is called a democracy, a pure and direct democracy. The biggest problem that at least I have with anarcho-communism is it wants to abolish the standing government, and it wants to establish a new government based on pure democracy, which is very hierarchical, and because it creates the hierarchy of the majority over the minority, and it is itself a government. So really what I would say is ANCOMs they're pretty much just LARPers. They're pretty much just LARPers saying that they're anarchist, when really they are just fans of pure and direct democracy. Post-scarcity is, there's at least no way that I can see that it's ever going to happen. And it really does just establish a new government. With
historically speaking, pure direct democracy always devolves into dictatorship.
Exactly. And I mean, the thing about it is that, here's the thing, Average Blonde, what I would suggest is, I've made a video about this. I've actually made a video about this on my channel, and my 2 cents actually mirrored it. So if you want, you can follow basically my username back to my channel and look for anarcho-communism as an oxymoron, or you can look for that in my 2 Senses thing. And what I would suggest is watch that, because it will answer more questions than not. It'll cover more bases than I can here, and I go over a lot of the problems that anarcho-communism has in that video. So if you want to watch something that addresses a lot of those things, look for my video on either my 2 Senses channel or my own channel, or both if you'd like.
Mm-hmm. And to answer the final question, do you?
Right?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. I just wanted to throw one tidbit in here. My personal problem with anarcho-communism is, and you know, maybe I'm off base here, but that seems like a complete contradiction in terms, because anarchy is the absence of a state.
Exactly.
Whereas communism is utterly dependent on a state to effectively rule basically every aspect of your life. The two are completely incompatible. It's a contradiction. Mm-hmm. It makes no sense.
Like, well, if you live it, it's, well, I'd say this: if in an anarcho-capitalist society, several individuals voluntarily decide to come together and share all their possessions in common, that is absolutely doable. The problem is if 9 people choose to join a commune, and if you have 10 people, 9 choose to form a commune, 1 person chooses to keep his property to himself and not join their commune. The question is, do the 9 people in the commune believe that they can force the final person to join? If they say no, then they're actually ANCAPs, not ANCOMs. But if they say yes, then they're not anarchists, they're statists.
Exactly.
Yes, agreed. And therein lies my whole point. Anarchy, by its very definition, is the absence of a state. And thus it's the absence of state force. Mm-hmm. In other words, in any actual anarchist society, you know, there's no government. There's no, you know, scary men with guns coming to your house and knock on your door, point a gun at you and say, give me your stuff or whatever. You know, it doesn't exist. Whereas, you know, in a communist system, as we have seen, you know, oh my God, how many communist countries have there been? Every single one of them. It evolves into exactly that. It's government force. Mm-hmm. Therefore, anarchy and communism are 2 completely incompatible ideologies. And, you know, I've gotten into spats on Twitter about this, and it seems like nobody really gets what I'm saying. It's a contradiction in terms. You cannot be an anarchist and a communist at the same time. But again, maybe I'm off base here. What do I know? I'm just a stray cat.
Based King asks, do you like Hoppa? I actually answered that question earlier in the stream, so when this is over, if you want to go back to the beginning, you'll hear my answer on that.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you know any ANCAPs who are planning an Among Us game stream? No, and I don't even know what that is.
I've heard of at a loss.
I've heard of the game. I never played it before, so I have no clue what it's all about.
As I've said many times, there are only really 2 games I play, Pokemon and Halo. I still have not had enough time to start the expansion pass on Pokemon Sword and Shield. Shame on me. And I know there have been some new trailers for the next Halo game, but no one's really that excited about it. So,
yeah. On your Discord, I did post a picture of one of the nurses in a bikini, and it was kind of great, as well as Ash's mom. I was just sort of, you know, messing around, and, you know, hey, I like this. So, you know, sorry about that.
Yes, Mikhail has a crush on Nurse Joy and Ash Ketchum's mother. So,
hey, don't judge me. Don't judge me.
No judgment here, Stray Cat. No judgment here. For anime characters, they are pretty hot.
Thank you. I agree.
All right. Well, we're at about 45 minutes here. I'll keep this going for maybe another 10 minutes if anyone else has any other comments to make. Otherwise, like I said, doesn't have to be a serious question. By all means, we can let this talk about whatever you'd like. That's what these streams are for.
Well, I've got a question. What is your opinion about the Supreme Court candidate that Trump is trying to push through? Have either of you heard that?
Amy Coney Barrett, of course. I've heard plenty about her.
Yeah.
What I can say is this: based on her own statements and her judicial record, it's clear she is in the vein of Antonin Scalia. She's an originalist. She believes the Constitution has a particular meaning, and it is not the job of judges to decide what policies should or shouldn't be. It's to decide what policies are and are not based on how they're worded and how the Constitution is worded. I think in principle of what James Madison and the other founding fathers, how they intended the government to function, I think she is yes, her judicial philosophy is in line with what the founding fathers would have wanted. Now, does that mean she will end up ruling that way? It's anyone's guess. Everyone said the same thing about Gorsuch. Everyone said the same thing about John Roberts. Gorsuch, recently made a ruling about Title IX, I think it was, that a lot of originalists thought was pretty bad. Roberts has really turned out to be more of a left-leaning, non-originalist justice. So it could be. So it's really anyone's guess. I would say that, in my opinion, again, it is the takeover of the Supreme Court by non-originalists. These I forget what term they call it, the living Constitution view. That's pretty much inevitable as time goes on. But I would say that just in principle, I think Amy Coney Barrett, yes, is more of the kind of justice that the founding fathers would have intended.
Okay.
If I can chime in for just a second.
Yeah, go ahead.
Personally, I would say this. She ranks as a B to a B plus candidate in my view. She has some views that I disagree with, but she has a lot more that I do agree with. So, okay, I'm okay with it. My personal, and 2 cents, this personally, but one of my biggest issues is gun control. And I wholeheartedly believe that every single gun law on the books is utterly unconstitutional, flies in the face of the Second Amendment, and they can shove that where the sun don't shine, as far as I'm concerned. With that being said, I'm okay with Amy Barrett if she will simply hold, as you pointed out, to an originalist view of the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, more specifically the Second Amendment. And with, let's assume that, this goes through, and, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of kicking and cussing and crying. And blah, blah, blah. Leftist tears are delicious. But the bottom line is, let's assume that she does get confirmed. Okay, cool. As long as she rules in favor of gun rights, I'm okay with it. Does she have some views I disagree with? Yes, absolutely.
How the Supreme Court is intended to function. If you think back to the Obergefell versus well, I don't remember the full name of the case, but Obergefell, the case, the Supreme Court case back in 2015 that ruled that same-sex marriage is a constitutionally protected right. In that, Justice John Roberts, who, again, I don't believe he's originalist. I disagree with a great many of the rulings he's made. But I think one of the things he said at the opening of that case, as it was heard, which is entirely true, was this. He said, it is of no interest to this court whether or not same-sex marriage is the right thing for this country. What is of our interest is whether or not it is required by the Constitution. And that was the point, is that he's saying the Supreme Court does not exist to legislate. It is not the legislative branch of government. The Supreme Court exists to rule what the law is and whether or not it conflicts with the Constitution. So he says the Constitution, I think, read the Constitution from beginning to the end of the last amendment, and it is clear nowhere in the Constitution does it require that every state in the Union allow same-sex marriage. Now, whether or not they should is an entirely different question. The point is the Constitution clearly does not require that any state allow that, or that it require opposite sex marriage for that matter. The Constitution nowhere says states must make X laws about marriage. That would be something under the 9th Amendment that is left to the states. Whereas the court ended up ruling that the Constitution actually requires same-sex marriage, which by twisting the meaning, or, this is how I interpret this, or the meaning of the Constitution has changed over time. Well, if the meaning changes over time, it's fundamentally pointless. That just means that whatever the justices sitting on the court currently believe is what the.
So glad you said that. I'm so glad you said that.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, if the meaning of the Constitution changes over time, then the whole thing is pointless. Yeah,
and that's really what Lysander Spooner was pointing out when he talked about how even in his day the government had far exceeded its constitutional mandate. It had taken powers not granted to it by the Constitution.
Yep.
It was violating the rights of the citizens, and he pointed out the government is going against its own Constitution. Therefore, the Constitution either allows for the form of government we have had, or it was powerless to prevent it. In either case, it is unfit to exist. And I agree. I think I agree with many of the founding fathers in principle on many things, Thomas Jefferson and James Madison in particular. But I think where the American government is now is proof positive that there is no such thing as a minarchy, a limited government. Government, by its very nature, grows in the size and scope of its authority. And over time, no matter what, it will find a way around the paper barriers, the constitutions you put in place to try to limit it.
Also, I just want to jump in here on this nominee for the state Supreme Court. I would say this. I know she looks good, but be cautious, be cautious, because Trump has nominated her for a reason. She got Trump's nomination for a reason, and you've got to wonder what that was, what that was all about. I know she looks good now, but as we all know, during elections or appointings, they look great beforehand. They look marvelous beforehand, but after they get elected, after they get appointed, they basically become the big raging dinosaur. They start screwing people over. They start doing what they want. And so I would just say this. She looks good now, but be cautious about it because Trump has nominated her for a reason. And as we all know, Trump is no friend to the Constitution. He's no friend to our basic rights. He has done things like red flag laws, gun control laws. And again, you have to remember, he nominated her. So is she going to stand up for our gun rights? Is she going to stand up for that? Or is she going to get in there and then start making decisions against our basic human rights, not just on firearms, but on all these different things? So you got to wonder about that.
Absolutely.
I absolutely agree. Like I said,
it's another one of those things. It's just like Trump and Biden. All things considered, do I believe the country is probably a better place with Trump in the White House than Biden? Yes. But on a scale of 1 to 100, it's only like +5.
Yeah. I can agree with that. And to your point, Night Shift, yes, you are absolutely correct. I would also urge a sense of caution, to anybody. I don't care if you're left, right, center, whatever, wherever you fall on the political spectrum, caution is definitely your friend here. Like I said, I personally rate Amy Barrett as, somewhere in the ballpark of a B plus if I'm being generous. But is she perfect? God, no. And like you pointed out, heaven only knows what she's actually going to do if she gets there. You know, I have no idea. I really don't. I honestly, you know, whether it's her or somebody else who fills Ruth Bader Ginsburg's seat, you know, heavens rest her soul. The bottom line is, my biggest concern is gun rights.
Mm-hmm.
You know, yeah, and I say this because, you know, and I know this is an old adage, but I say it because an armed citizenry is a polite citizenry.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's another old saying: a man with a gun is a citizen. A man without a gun is a subject.
Absolutely.
And yeah, there you go. Sorry.
And on that note, we're probably at the top of the hour. We're just about at the top of the hour, and I can't think of a better line to close on. So thanks, everybody, for being here. And as always, that is my 2 cents. Take it for what it's worth.